Okay, well, I want to continue to remind people about the True North Ministries men's retreat that's coming up in November. My recommendation is if you want to go, register and pay your $250 by mid-September. That auditorium and the cabins up there will hold somewhere between 80 and 100 people. It's up in the DFW area in Cleburne, Texas. It's a great retreat. I went in 2024. Worship, prayer, self-reflection, lots of outdoor activities. There's sporting clay shooting, there's pistol shooting, there's a number of different games to play. So, and it's a great time, multi-denominational kind of thing. You know, True North Ministries have been around for quite a bit of time. Their subject matter that they teach is out of the book by best-selling author John Eldredge, who's written a book called Wild at Heart. It's been out since 2010. It's an excellent book, and also all the subject material is great to learn from. If that's trouble for you to afford, scholarships are available in the ministry budget. Just come contact me privately. We'll find a way to get you any money that you need. Anytime I've taken groups on disaster relief trips or anything like this kind of thing, we always find the money for anybody who needs it. Food is covered. Food is included in this $250. This includes a cabin and food for three and a half days. So these cabins will hold 3 men, 2 bunks, and 1 queen bed. You can request that the friends that you're going with, that you can room with them. So if you want to get together with 2 or 3 other guys, just name them. If you want to stay in a private room, you can do that. You're going to pay a lot of money. But 75. Yeah. But these are rustic cabins. It's not a 5-star hotel. You know, if I had to rate it personally, it would be like a 2.5 to 3 star. So, you know, it's manly. It's manly rustic cabins, but it's on a beautiful piece of property. The Arrowhead Center is owned by one of the churches up there, and it's a nice facility. Got a beautiful commercial kitchen, a huge auditorium with audio visual. Right on the river. Right on the river. Lots of places to go out in the trees and everything and self-reflect with some of the exercises. And we'll be watching lots of video clips from famous movies that feature men in action, including Braveheart. You know, you get the idea. So, but it is excellent. I went and I wanted to go first before I recommended it to anybody at our church. I'm hearing that some of our former members are going to join us up there. Eddie McFadden, I think, is going.
And they have RV slots.
Yes. James Gilpin is going to take his RV up there. They have hookups for RVs. So that doesn't mean you get a discount for the cabin fee, but they, you know, one offsets the other. So it's the same price. This is a good deal. So I hope that you will enjoy. You'll hear more about it. It's been in the bulletin for a few weeks, and as we approach September, it'll be good. I think Sonny Good's going to go, and so is our former elder Craig Maxwell. Mm-hmm. So the last time I went in 2024, there were 80 men that attended this. It was very, very well done, very well attended. And I didn't see anybody that left. So that's a good thing. Okay. Any questions about that? Keep that up there. There's something else too, before we get into the teaching tonight. As you know, part of this ministry to men is to do service projects, not only for our members, but also for the community. If you recall, back in March, we helped the quadriplegic Katie, I think her last name is Hayes, maybe, who lives right here between us and Kingwood Middle School. We went to her yard and cleaned up, and she was very, very appreciative of that. Well, a new opportunity has come up for us to serve. And this is just being discussed at this moment, but how many of you have heard of the ministry called Sleep in Heavenly Peace? Any of you? You have? John Walker brought this to my attention, and I found out that Isaac Bertrand, he and his family are participating in it. What it is, it's a build-a-bed opportunity for underprivileged families. And so this is a pretty big, well-funded ministry. And so there's an opportunity to sign up as a volunteer and to go to their manufacturing facility and participate in the building of the pieces of the beds so that they can assemble them all together and deliver them to families. So I've got a date right now that I just reserved just for me, October the 4th, and that's a Saturday, and it's from 8 to 12, and it's a build. It's called a build day. Excuse me.
October 4th is Sunday.
Oh, it must be the 3rd then. It's on a Saturday. So this is a build day at Sleep in Heavenly Peace. I think it's SHIP. I'll send you some information when I send out the newsletter. But anyway, there's an opportunity for us to do that if anybody's around and wants to go. I've heard just great things about the ministry. And John Walker's son is involved in it. And of course, as I said, the Bertrands are involved in it just as family. So it's a very worthwhile ministry. Any questions about that? Just look for more information when we publish it.
I forgot the name, but you guys had put it in our little chat and Isaac put it in there. It's in our.
It's in the group me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Okay.
I
Great.
look at it, recognize the name you mentioned it. Yeah, that description.
Look at group me.
I also put the chat because I didn't know, man, I'm Jeremy, but several volunteers, but we need volunteers this Sunday. We need a lot.
That's right. Right. So we need
Not only for this group in here to help serve our own church.
set up.
Set up early in the morning, help
Right.
cook, break down, set up. Pretty much anytime from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. And great.
Fantastic. Make sure you recruit the muscles from the youth group. Have you already? You probably already done that, right?
It's me. Work.
Yeah.
You cook, you can.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we get into the lesson? I think we got some good things coming up. I'm going to send out a newsletter to kind of remind you all of this stuff. I've got a list of all the adult men 18 and above in the church. I'm missing some of them. I don't know what's going on with the church database, but I'll get that figured out. Okay. Okay. Another announcement that has to do with this class. We are winding down in this class. The last class is going to be September the 2nd. So it's tonight and 2 more sessions. And then on September the 9th, Kip is going to be teaching a class that's open for men and women. It's called The Mystery of Christ. It's based on Ephesians 3. And so that'll be starting on September the 9th. I think the women are still going to be meeting across the hall in their room, but men and women are invited to this class. But we don't have a men's class lined up. So be looking for that. Look for more information, but he's given me a complete outline and what he's going to cover. I think he's just teaching it by himself. So, all right. Enough of all the announcements. Okay, so tonight we are continuing in our book, The 5 Marks of a Man, and the chapter that we're covering is starting in chapter 20. This whole section is about men protect. You know, we've talked a lot leading up to this point, about men having a vision, men taking a minority position, men are team players, men work. So this is a really good section that we're going to go through these next 4 chapters. I don't know why, but I had 4 chapters assigned for tonight. And I think what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to cover it all. So you and I will split up the remaining chapters for next week. Sorry about that. It was a little planning mishap. Okay. So if you have the book, if anyone doesn't have the book, there's more. The box of books is in this cabinet if anyone wants to raise their hand. All right. So the title of this chapter is there's some good scriptures in here tonight. Boys are predators and men are protectors. So my opening question to the class is, what is it that draws men to the military? This is in the book. What are the things that pop on the top of your mind when you hear the military? What's that?
Patriotism.
Yeah, patriotism, definitely. What else?
Brotherhood.
Brotherhood.
Duty.
Anybody a veteran in here or have family that's veteran? Roger? Anybody have family that's veteran? I mean, yeah. Excellent. I'm not a veteran. I don't have anybody on either side of my family that was, but I've always admired the military service folks.
Actually, those Navy people right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Interesting. My dad served on the Korean War,
Yeah.
and we were in Abilene, and one of the members of the church was a high official at Dallas Air Force Base. He knew that my brother and I were going to Texas A&M, and he wanted to help us get an ROTC scholarship, and my dad was not a hero. Something happened in Korea, and he was a mail target. He was behind the line, but he saw something that he did not want us to be exposed to if we could stay away from it.
Yeah.
So
My grandfather was Korea. He was military police intelligence. And he said, boy, if you ever think about joining the service, I'll whip you. And he meant it.
and my dad never talked about it, but he was adamant that we did not go into the ROTC at A.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So, the author talks a lot about the military and, though anybody can sign up, still only 15% of those that do are women. That's not a negative against them or anything like that. It's just that's the way it is. Oh, Josh is military too. Well, Josh, you didn't raise your hand.
That kind of.
You kind of had. Now that
I was giving him a hard time in a year.
I was going to say that's unusual for any military guy. They're the first ones to almost hit the ceiling with their hand.
I'll tell him.
Okay, so but I think the point of this chapter is, and we can't go into too much detail, but is that men are wired spiritually to be protectors, and physically, we're not saying, as he said in this chapter, we're not tougher than women, because who in the heck is good enough here to go through childbirth? Anybody think they're tougher than our women to face childbirth? No way.
I've had kidney stones.
Kidney stones. Okay, that comes close. So, but we are stronger. We're men are physically stronger, and although these days I've seen some women that can definitely do more push-ups than men can, and I've seen some cross-training specialists on TV. I mean, they can flat out lift some weight and do a lot of stuff with it. But generally, it's fair to say that men are stronger, and God gives us that gift to be a protector, especially sometimes when women cannot do what we can do for them, to be a protector. So I think that's a fair thing to say. So, he gives lots of examples here of guys that have done great things, and but again, just more based on National Strength and Conditioning Association research, men on average are able to produce about 1/3 more strength and applied force than women. Okay, largely due to the size of muscle mass. So, and of course, testosterone floods our system, and not necessarily women. We don't want to get into that discussion tonight. Trey would be here. He'd take that down a rabbit hole that I wouldn't want to go to. Okay, so anyway, we're wired differently, and God expects us to use our spiritual desire to protect others. Let's take the case of David with Goliath. David certainly was not the largest man. He was going to face a 9-foot giant, but he felt called to spiritually protect Israel and to fight against the giant. Of course, nobody on the Philistine side knew that he was a sharpshooting what do you call this? A slingshotter. So yeah, but the rest of that story. So anyway, it's just great stuff in here. And so the Bible not only tells us to protect and defend, but also warns us, like in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 31. Do not envy, this is a little bit different twist on the topic. Don't envy a man of violence, and don't choose any of his ways. So what we're saying is we use our strength for protection, but we don't misuse our strength, right, in unself-controlled, violent ways that God would not approve of. So there is a big difference. That's use of your own strength for violence. That's boy stuff. That's boyhood. But protection of others, that's manhood. And I'm interested to see what our officer back here has to say about this stuff. So don't be afraid to comment. This is good stuff, and he gives several examples. And for those of us who are married, if you're following on 175, here's what the apostle Paul says about job descriptions as husbands. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Ephesians chapter 5 and 25. So we're expected to treat our wives just as Jesus treated the church. The church was his bride. So it's a sacrificial life that he expects us to live. And it is not hard it's not hard to respect Paul, because he's been imprisoned, he's been flogged, he's been exposed to death, he's been lashed, he's been beaten with rods, he's been stoned, he's shipwrecked, endangered, sleepless, hungry, thirsty, cold, and naked. So we don't think it's a stretch. I don't think anyone thinks it's a stretch that sometimes the man of God, has to face some tough stuff to get God's work done, and it includes protecting others. So one more verse, and I'll let you guys talk a little bit. 1 Peter, it says in chapter 3, verse 7 of the ESV, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. Show honor to the women as the weaker vessel. Interesting. I'm going to come right back to that. Since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. So here's my question to you, for those of you who read the book. If not, just discuss it a little bit. So it says that they're the weaker vessel. Is that a problem for any of you guys? Why not? If you didn't read the book, it's well, all right. You guys aren't very talkative tonight. Brian says in his book, it doesn't say that they're a lesser vessel, but that they're a weaker vessel. So again, God does not diminish the importance of our women. It's just that, physically in general, they're weaker than us and expects us to use our strength as for protection, right? So that's a key distinction. Yes.
I think when they're looking for a mate, they're looking for somebody strong that they think that they can. So I guess it's reciprocal, that they're looking for someone that is stronger and could protect them if need be.
Yeah.
So this goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Anybody else? We're going to zip through this chapter and get on to the next one. But
Back in the days when I was,
yeah,
we had some very classes, and it always came up with women emotionally are not as stable as a man under fire. Is what we gleaned years ago, and then you stop and think about it, and sometimes they are kind of looking for shelter. They're looking for security anyway, but they just emotionally they're not as strong as men are.
Oh no, you mess with a child, that mother's coming back.
that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
She doesn't care how big you are.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. And then I love the last example that he brings up. There he says there's very few times when I've had to physically protect someone, but one and when I had to confront someone, but when he caught a guy flirting with his wife, he stepped up and said, I don't think he was bigger than this guy at the time. He said, dude, stop. You cannot hit on my wife anymore. This ends right now.
He said he put on a puffy shirt, so he looked at me.
I saw that. Yeah. So, yeah, it can get tough to defend the people that need to be defended, but we're called to be physical protectors of our family. Okay. Any other questions before we go on? I'll cover as much as I can, Nick, but if I run out of time, you got it next week.
You got through all the announcements for it.
Okay. All right, going on to chapter 21. This one's a really good one, about boys want their pleasure today. Men think about a woman's tomorrow. This is about, sexual immorality and things like that. And, Brian has great stories that he tells in this chapter about how and of course, how many of you right now have daughters who are dating? Anybody? One?
4 daughters that are married.
4 daughters are married. So you've been through the routine. You've been through the routine. Anybody? You got 2? 1, excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Come on.
Anyway, so all joking aside, this is tough stuff, when you as a man are called by God to establish, standards, not only for your family, but according to the scripture. And, I'll never forget the first time I met Johnny Youngblood, one of our former members. He used to tell me, he said, before I let any of the suitors date my 2 daughters, he said they definitely knew that I had a shotgun parked by the door, and they saw that I was kind of a threat. He said it in more stronger words than that. But I always appreciated that, because it is a man's responsibility to protect our daughters and at least show them, hey, this is the kind of man that I want, not that I want, that God wants you to consider, and that the dating process is very important. and the guys in here that have sons, this whole chapter is made for us. I'm a father of both, daughter and a son that have both grown, but this chapter is made for us as well. So I like the way he told this story in here, that he said it was his youngest daughter that was going out for the first time, and then he sat this young man down. I actually think he stopped them from going on a date. He said, "Get in the car, and I want to drive with you somewhere." I think they went to a restaurant. First question he asked after he sat down, after pleasantries, is he said, I need to, sorry, I'm a little behind here. He made the statement that I need to know that you're going to protect her reputation and only speak well of her, both while you're together and when you aren't. Are we clear? And can you do that? And then his second, and he said yes, of course, probably shaking in his seat. And then I asked, what are your sexual intentions? How far do you plan on going? Two direct questions with someone who's taken his youngest daughter out for the first time. And the rest of the story is beautiful. Mariah was her name. It turns out that word traveled so fast, what he was doing with Mariah in the age of texting, that the older daughters all texted him and said things like, "Way to go, Dad. Good job in doing the hard work." You know, and he went on to say that the young male that he grilled that night went on to become his son-in-law. So he did not scare somebody away. He asked the right questions, was bold, and was doing what God asked him to do, and he was paid handsomely with a nice young man that was a good partner for his daughter. Now, I know that he's smart enough to know that every situation doesn't work out like that, right? Sometimes we as Christians, will exert our best efforts in doing everything right and then still doesn't work. So I'm not here to tell you that's a perfect plan. I'm just telling you that, it's our responsibility to do what's right. So you got any stories similar to that? Anybody? Similar to his story? Anybody?
I had three sisters that were a year younger, 3 years younger, and 4 years younger. And my dad put all of the boys that dated them to work. He put them in a hayfield all summer long and in a granary. And if two of them made the grade. Two of them knew where Daddy stood and where my sister stood, and they became, my brother-in-law. They're good guys. But he worked so hard, they didn't have time to date.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. So, and then the rest of the chapter, covers all these various worldly philosophies and stuff but I didn't want to cover those. I thought it would be better to go over the section of scripture that Brian, for whatever reason, chose not to list in this chapter. So if you guys will join me, I'm going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 6. And I want you all to know what God has to say about this, and just read the whole chapter. Lloyd, would you mind reading that for us? 1 Corinthians chapter 6.
This has to do with lawsuits.
Hmm?
Lawsuits among believers.
No.
That's 1 Corinthians.
Oh, is it the wrong section? Here we go. Start in verse 12. Sorry.
All right. I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. You say food for the stomach and the stomach for food, and God will destroy them both. The body, however, is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. By his power, God raised the Lord from the dead, and he will raise us also. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ himself? Shall I then take the members of Christ and unite them with a prostitute? Never. Do you not know that he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her in body? For it is said, the two will become flesh. But whoever is united with the Lord is one spirit, one with him in spirit. Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you've received from God? You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies.
Yeah. Now, I'll be the first to confess to the entire class and even to those recording. I did not keep this when I was growing up. So I'm not saying that laughingly. I'm not saying that, I'm saying I didn't become a Christian until I was 27 anyway, but I didn't even go through any of these verses, discussing this in detail. But anyway, God restores all people that have been through sexual sin or any other kind of sin. So we always have that in front of us, right? So don't beat yourself up if that happens in the past, but we are still responsible for teaching this to our children and grandchildren, right? So, don't ever be bashful, or don't ever be, don't shoot yourself in the heart and in the head, so to speak.
I think it's amazing. So all other sin, and strap on the armor, pick up the sword, take it on, toe to toe in this, run. Every time, run.
Flee, just to run from it, right? So anybody read this for the first time or second time and glean something new from it, or something you didn't know?
Well, it reflects well off of Toby's book that we read too, because he was one of the main topics he talked about the fifth, when he talked about pride and the other areas that men struggle with. When he talked about sexual morality, he really focused on the fleeing part, just like Lloyd talked about. So. Mm-hmm. And he reflected the scripture very well on that part of his book too. It goes hand in hand with what he said.
I don't know about the other fathers in here that have daughters. It's really hard for me to talk to my daughters about this. It's easier for me to talk to my son, and we talked about it. But I know that my wife talked to our daughters about it. We had that conversation, but it is so hard for a man to talk to his daughter about, this. Now, and it's ironic because just today I was talking to my daughter, and my daughter and her husband have talked to my two granddaughters about it already. One's a senior in high school at Porter, and one is a eighth grader. But they've had that conversation, and my oldest daughter lost a friend over that. So she's sleeping with her boyfriend.
Yep.
And my granddaughter moved herself away from that girl.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
It is. I've got some personal situations similar to yours too. So, but just remember, again, I can't say it enough. Forgiveness and grace
Amen.
is from God, and use it to confidently approach the throne when you're dealing with this issue with family, friends, and others, and stand up for what's right.
Well, the reason why we can't, it's so uncomfortable discussing this with kids, grandkids, is sex has been so twisted and just it's and evil to people now. And
Right.
The hard thing is that God created man and woman for each other, and it was beautiful in the right setting. It is absolutely beautiful, but in in the wrong setting, it's hard.
Yeah. And Brian talks about that a lot in this chapter tonight, in Song of Solomon, just beautiful, beautiful descriptions of, lovemaking and, everything about a man and a woman being part of what he created. So, you know,
It is a subject of forgiveness, but like if we're dealing with our kids, like Nicholas and Laura, or if you're talking with a youth group that, still hasn't gotten married, I used to work a lot with young adults in Brazil, my wife and I, and I would say, if you want to have a marriage that's going to be blessed by God, have a, pre-marriage also blessed by God. So don't think that you can play around as a Christian, play around, do whatever you want to do, and then when we get married, say, God bless my marriage. He can,
right.
but you're going to be going through trouble you don't have to go through. And
Right.
so it's a good thing, even like someone like you, to talk with them and say, hey, you don't have to do this. I did it. I wasn't a Christian. I did it.
Yep.
But you don't have to go through this.
Right.
And it's to learn from my mistakes. That's what I always would tell them. Learn
Right.
from mistakes of whoever that has an opportunity to help you. And but to don't play around and think that you can just do
Right.
whatever you want, and you're gonna go through troubles that that you don't really. There's no need. There was no need to do that. To go through that trouble. It can be a good result and still have a good marriage. Yes, you can. A lot more working. Is so blessed by God doing pre-marriage. I mean, David's a good example. He paid the consequences for his sin, losing his son.
Yeah.
So there are consequences of everything that we do. I'm good. I'm not saying again you can't have a good relationship. You can. I know a lot of friends of mine who started out wrong.
Yep.
They really had to work at it. Really had to work at it.
Yep.
And we have to work it out anyway. Even if you start right, you still have to work it. But
I love this statement that he said in this paragraph today, and I need all of us need to remember this. This is not biblical, but your sexual self-control now will protect her emotional well-being in the future. A woman knows that a man who controls himself when dating is a man who can control himself with other women later. That was something to think about. This will bring incredible peace of mind. So, okay. Thanks for reviewing all that. That's and then his last thing he said, just make sure that, if you're single, define your sexual boundaries before you go out with anyone. And men, we need to reject the toxic sex as appetite and necessary evil camps. He's talking about this school of thought. It's time to step up and start protecting the women in our lives and the future women in our lives. In the process, we protect our very own selves. Some non-biblical wisdom, but okay. Any other? That's a hard. I could have spent the whole class on that one. And I have just as much to learn on this subject as anybody. So I'm still learning, even though I'm a grandfather, but I've got an 8-year-old that's coming up. And so, I'll have to pick and choose my times to share stuff with her. Okay. If no other questions, we'll move on. Maybe I'll get another chapter knocked out before we quit, Nicholas, so won't burden you too much next week. Okay, now this one is totally different topic, not as sensitive as that one, but I still appreciate it. This chapter 22 is called Boys Coast, and men keep pushing themselves. And he goes through this whole story of Michael Jordan. Everybody knows who Michael Jordan is, greatest basketball player of all time. And everybody admired him, but he was a great learner. But this chapter is not only about that. It's really trying to tell us men that we need to never stop learning. If you're looking on page 186, some guys just give up and stop learning in their adulthood, and they decide they're done. They've had enough, and they just want to coast. Boys stagnate intellectually, not men. Men constantly seek and share knowledge. So, as we spoke of earlier, after King David died, there was a series of kings who got worse with each generation. And one of them, of course, was Rehoboam that we've been studying, and it seemed what he seemed to be saying was, what can I do to enjoy all the power that I have? I don't want to learn anything new from anybody else. I don't want to gain any additional wisdom. I'm just going to sit on my laurels and just enjoy it and live off the fat of my accomplishments. That's a very, very dangerous position to put your mind into. And so in 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 8, it says, he abandoned the counsel that the old men gave him and took counsel with the young men who had grown up with him and stood before him. Now, what does that tell you? Who is he placing his faith in?
Inexperienced younger guy.
Inexperienced younger guys that probably don't. Now, I've met guys that are younger than me that have, sometimes they have more wisdom than I do, but that's generally an exception, right? If you have a few gray hairs and you've been around a few years, you tend to have more wisdom than most of the young men. But he definitely sought out the advice of the old. He sought out the advice of the younger men, and that was not a good. That was a good thing. And then
You also think about,
sure,
I think it says it in here,
yeah,
I've learned a lot of us going through the Old Testament, but it mentions peers because almost all of the kingdoms were teenagers or in their 20s. So that was their peer group. And they looked at the elders as like teens look at us.
right,
Old and may not know.
right,
Not old and wise, but old
Right.
and may not know.
right,
Yeah, they're almost all teenagers in their 20s, all the kings.
right. So at least they may have been ignorant and just not had enough chances to make mistakes so that they could become wise, right?
There's a reason
You want
why,
to hear what you want to hear. And that I like that answer better because that was easier or whatever they did.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
there's a reason why it's only the young men that dream of going off to war.
because they don't know yet what they've signed up for, right? Only well, now we've got Saving Private Ryan and all these graphic movies and stuff. We know exactly what it's like,
Apocalypse Now.
but those guys back in 1944, they certainly didn't have that. Yeah,
It's funny, my great grandfather and great uncle, they were World War II. My grandfather was Korean. Like, I've heard enough stories in my life to never dream about such things.
Back then, you had people lying to get into the military instead of lying to get out of it.
Yep. That's what my
Right.
great uncle did, lied about his age to get in.
Yeah. Not to belabor, not to belittle that point, which is great, but Rehoboam also, he drove the Israelites harder into the ground. It says in verse 14, he says, my father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So, he just fell prey to this classic leader mistake of valuing also production over production capacity. He just wanted people to do more and more things and forget about the fact that they're people. You have to build up people if you want them to do more before you. he didn't consider the health of the people. So, going on, uh, yeah. So this is a huge responsibility, for all of us. Um, we need to be prepared to seek counsel of people that are wiser than us and that are good brothers and good sisters that, they aren't afraid to listen to, because people are, um, so it's just great advice. Um, and we not only need to take advice from others, but when we learn something, I love this point in here, we need to share it with younger people. So that's our job too, is to let that information come in and go out in both directions. Okay. So that covers just about.
Well, right.
Yeah.
there,
If you want to make some additional points, you
Yeah,
can.
189, men get all the knowledge they can from those who have gone ahead of them. But it doesn't stop there. Men also turn around and share with those who are coming up behind them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, but boys rely on other boys who tell them, oh, this is a man. And they accept that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So, so the role of mentors he brings out is really important. When he was building his church up there in Cincinnati, the Crossroads Church, recognizing leaders growth potential and realizing that they need to be humble and they need to rely on mentoring of people that have been through situations that they haven't been is really important. So
That's one thing, that I miss. I know growing up, we had people stand up, give testimony,
right.
and powerful. Like you hear enough stories like that, you're like, I know how I don't want to live my life.
Right.
We don't hear that anymore. It's very rare.
So that you make a good segue for a final point. Back a few chapters ago, we talked about, it's a volunteer thing, but I've been praying a lot that more and more men would get into small groups of just men, because that gives the opportunity for mentoring and discussing some things, in a group that you might not be able to do here, obviously, in a recording or in a public place. And so after you built some trust with some of your band of brothers, men that you've gotten to trust with information, that's really the place where you can do some of this thing stuff that we're talking about, which is sharing and building one another and gaining counsel from people that are wiser than us, and then sharing counsel with men that are younger. So I'm going to continue to ask the ministry and myself to continue to pray for that, because would like to see us, grow in these areas. It's all voluntary, so nobody's going to force you to do anything, but I would like to consider it. So when I send out this newsletter, I've still got everyone's contact information, and so if you see people you want to pair up with, in groups of 3 or 4, please do so. Yeah, be a leader.
And we're kicking around the idea of a meal just to sit down and discuss small men's groups.
Yeah, that's good. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, we discussed that. So, all right, it's 5 minutes left until quitting time. Some of you have kids to go pick up or people to go see. Let's just spend the time fellowshipping unless you have another question you want to, or a comment you want to make, or a question.
Well, I'll just throw in there, I like how you began yourself, last chapter, about learning from elders and younger generations. Cause you never know what somebody might have been through and what they have learned. So I know I myself, I go forth every day. I try to tell myself, today I'm gonna be better than yesterday. And I keep going through that. And like I've learned from Nick, when he gets up here and he leads the class, you never know who you can learn from. So it doesn't necessarily, like when I first read through Kings, the part about him, he went to his elders, got their opinion, and he went to his peers. I liked that at first. I didn't like the fact that he just was like, oh, well, to heck with what they're talking about. I'm gonna, go with what my peers say. But you just never know. So it never hurts to seek that guidance from just anybody. Get opinions from everybody, and then you need to judge for yourself, what is the best way going forward.
And pray about.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
Always go to God first. That's your best bet.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I know we threw a lot at you tonight. All right. And nobody joined us online, but all right. Well, thanks for coming. Let's just fellowship or pick up your kids. Next week, Nick will pick up chapter 23 and 24. And then we'll have one conclusion class, and then we'll switch over to Kip's new class on September the 9th. He will start. Our last one will be the
And
second.
what chapter is that on?
Starting next week.
No, the kids class, what chapter?
Oh, it's chapter 3, I think. 3, where it says he's preached on the mystery of Christ. All right, we're signing.